2016 International Business Case Presentation. First off, we'd like to say a huge thanks to our judges. We have Gary Vickers from EMCO, Josh Lawson from Scotiabank, Michael Kozar from Federated Cooperatives Limited, Kenneth Coates from Johnson Troyano Graduate School of Public Policy, Wayne Brownlee from Potash Corp, and Carolyn Tastat from P&G. Competitors will have a maximum of 20 minutes to present. Immediately following the presentation, judges will have a total of 5 minutes to ask presenters questions. The volunteer timekeeper will show time cards at various intervals to indicate the remaining time and will stop any speaker who exceeds the maximum time limit. No questions, comments, or picture taking will be permitted from the audience at any time. The audience will only be permitted to applaud following the question and answer period. The audience is banned from any material that bears the name or symbol of a competing school, and we ask that the audience exit the room immediately following the question and answer period. So competitors, you may begin when you're ready.
Hello, Mr. McAdams and fellow executives at Granite Aviation. We are very, very excited to be here to present to you today and very much appreciate you having us in such short notice. I'm here today with my colleagues Douglas, Elizabeth, my name is Daniel, and we make up DLD Consulting. Now, before we start, I'd like to highlight that you do know your company best and what it takes to drive future growth. However, as outside consultants, we see many different themes and challenges in many different industries. And one of the common themes that I really want to highlight, and that does apply to your situation today, is the need to strategically analyze all of the issues facing your company with an overarching viewpoint and come up with a recommendation and strategic implementation that not only takes the short term in mind, but also drives long-term prosperity. Now, overall, what we will accomplish today with fully implementing our recommendation is to establish a strong foothold in Africa and the Middle East, as well as driving new strategic partnerships. What is the context for this today? Industry experts, yourself, your company, provide exceptional customer service through your specialization with low-cost carriers. We really want to keep this customer service as well as your industry expertise in mind with our recommendation today. So, a little bit more on your company. You do really specialize in forming and managing those relationships because you do often have senior consultants, or most of the time have senior consultants within your partners rather than some of your competitors who are maybe doing a middle or lower level consultant, adding a consultant. You are a systems integration company, so what this means is you're taking the supplier, so flight in this case, and acting as the middleman, the distribution towards low-cost carriers specifically and airlines in general. As well as I touched on, you're adding superior customer service, and we want to make sure this is key to the recommendation today. The opportunity. The opportunity is to solidify your stronghold in a strategic value point of Africa and the Middle East, as well as expanding fully into there and creating that strong foothold that will drive future growth.
Thank you, Daniel. So at the heart of the presentation today is an issue that you're currently facing and our strategic recommendation for you. So the issue today is how should you approach both the opportunities you see in this market as well as some of the numerous challenges you're facing when you're looking to expand these two new markets. Ultimately, our recommendation is threefold. The first is actually to renegotiate with Flight and then bid on Angola Skies and Burundi Jet. Secondly, utilize a senior consultant to actually put this into action, and then thirdly, establish an office in the 4th year. Through this recommendation, there's a number of results. The first being a $7 million return in year 5, the position in the prosperous market, as well as developing an exclusive relationship with such an important supplier due to their proprietary technology that they're currently developing. So digging a bit deeper into what these issues really look like. The first is the corruption challenge you're faced with. So as mentioned, this impacts both yourself if you're looking to move forward into these markets, as well as the flight aircraft as a supplier because they're scared of actually entering into these markets now. So the bribes and legality is a full challenge, and they've actually expressed their concern about entering into this market, and they've demonstrated a new proposal due to these challenges. Secondly is the payment structure. So are you going to actually be able to get the return if you do invest into these markets? So looking at the relationship with Flight, we see this connection with this company is crucial for you if you're looking to expand, because they do have such a unique technology that you can look to grow and further. So the proposal decision is something that's key that we want to make sure that we do look at. Next is the enter decision. So if you do decide to go with this RFP process, how are you actually going to be able to implement this, and how are you going to get to the market that has the most strategic value at the lowest cost and risk for your company? Then lastly is the issue of competition. How do you work together with Flight to actually compete against the numerous other larger competitors? So with these issues, we want to help guide you through making these decision processes and ultimately provide a recommendation with you. So first is the most important thing at hand, and that's approaching the proposal decision from Flight. You had an initial agreement which was very attractive, and it very much suited what your core business does, and that's connecting and not actually doing the servicing. But with this new proposal they've demonstrated to you, they're actually asking that you do go into this new market and provide the servicing. So looking at what the pros and cons of this new proposal are, as we feel this is an immediate issue that you should look at. In terms of pros, you'll be actually able to enter a new line of business, potential margin on the subsidy that $4,500 they're providing, and then thirdly, expansion into the new market would be possible by taking this. But more importantly with this is the cons and the challenges that you'd face if you did go ahead with this. First is the cost that you'd see would outweigh the subsidies, as seen in the American market when they're looking to actually provide the manual as well as the training required to actually implement this. Secondly is it deviates far from your core business. You have incredible industry expertise and consulting services you provide as well as customer service. So not necessarily actual servicing and onboarding people, but rather providing this industry expertise. That is what your core business really is. And then thirdly, we do see this as a large challenge and quite infeasible with the 30 employees. So you would have to either expand your employee line or find a new way to get resources that would allow you to actually service and onboard these new companies. So from this, we do believe that you actually generate a strategy and then renegotiate with the new original proposal. But you do require a strategy to do this to make sure they want to be back on board with the original agreement. And we see three main leverage points that you can go forward with them with. So the first is the value of the market. If they don't go with you and you provide such an incredible value to them, they may not be able to unlock the value that they do see in these growing markets. The second is the value of partnership with your own company. You're an incredible company and they see this, and that's why they originally wanted to partner with you. So how can we further demonstrate this value to them? And then thirdly, how can you actually mitigate this concern regarding corruption? By taking these three leverage points, you'll be able to create a new proposal and influence them towards the initial agreement you agreed on.
So reiterating what my colleague Douglas had said, we want to go over a couple of the potential corruption and bribery issues that your company is facing when working in Africa and the Middle East. So taking a look at all three different airlines, because all three have outlined different potential sales costs that you would have to pay them in order to do business with them. So first looking at Angola Airlines, they are looking for $3,500 for consulting fees on the regulatory environment. After taking a look at the different legalities, we have seen that during the saving provision in B2, under execution and performance of a contract, this would not be deemed a bribery and therefore would be okay. The second company, which would be Burundi Jet, had outlined that it would be $3,500 for the government officials for Burundi, which would be processing of official documents, and Angola, which would be $55,000 for the regulatory environment. Both under saving provision as well as facilitation payments offer offer you the ability to fight any sort of bribery charges, because under these provisions, both do not count as bribery charges. However, the third airline that you're looking to partner with, which is Omni Vacations, is looking for $15,000 for airport improvements. After taking a look at this, we've seen that there is no provision for this, and this would actually be deemed bribery charges, and you could have issues with corruption with this company. So our recommendation today is to follow through with Angola and Burundi and look to no longer pursue that partnership or potential business with Omni Vacations. So how should your company look to enter the market in Africa and the Middle East? You've identified that there's a couple options that you could pursue. There's the basic office. There would be hiring a senior consultant, flying in consultants, as well as partnering with a consulting firm such as the Center or PwC. A couple of the criteria we'd like to look at in terms of which option would be the best for you would be the cost per year, the client and customer service, because your company really does value, and it's one of the things that your company offers to many of your clients, is that really strong customer service. So we want to make sure that with whichever method of entry you choose, you do not risk that customer service. And finally, which adds strategic value to your company. So as you can see here, both the basic office and senior consultancies really keep that customer service intact and make sure that that's one thing that's really, really well done within Africa and the Middle East. Both add strategic value, however, both are a bit more pricey. So our recommendation for you for this would be to begin with the senior consultant within the Africa and Middle East, and then within the 4th year, establish an office.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So the question is, how can you really capitalize on this opportunity? How are you going to work together with Flight, make sure they go back to the initial agreement, and then how are you going to move forward to really establish yourself in this market? And through this, we see that there's 3 key recommendations we'd recommend for you. The first is immediately after this meeting, entering into a renegotiation process with Flight, and then establish the partnership to together work on the RFP process with both Angola Skies as well as Burundi Jet. Both two offer a very key client you potentially have in attractive markets. Secondly, immediately send a senior consultant to Burundi. So we do feel, because there is so much strategic value in both these growing clients as well as growing markets, by investing in the senior consultant to go there, it'll add a lot of value to your firm as well as to those clients, as you're going to be able to grow together as their interest in your products grow, as well as the potential new clients you might see in this market and the knowledge that you can bring back to your company. Thirdly, eventually establish an office in Burundi in your 4th year, and then leverage that for future growth and expansion. So you'd mentioned it's about a $200,000 cost to actually establish this office. And we see there is a lot of value in offering this service to your clients, but at this point it is quite a large cost, and we'll show you the financial calculations later that led us to that decision. But at this point we do see there is a lot of value as your clients start to demand more from you, but at this point a senior consultant would be a very smart investment to make sure you do actually satisfy the clients while still growing in the markets.
So with this strategic recommendation, obviously it is very critical to getting things right off the bat, but also there's many different aspects to our implementation plan within our recommendation. So this will go over 5 years, but it'll also encompass such things such as managing the relationships and managing the contracts, as we see these are a key value points and key things to not only get your foothold strong within Africa and the Middle East, but also establishing it further in years to come. So starting off with a general timeline. So we've defined it as from 0 to 3 months in the first term, but more specifically today. So we do recognize that this is quite a critical timeline, as you only have 3 hours to go and actually issue your final request for proposals for those 3 things, at which we are recommending the first 2. So a couple of specific actions we do recommend is actually renegotiating that agreement with Flight. So as Douglas touched on, it's very important to not take the proposed offer, because it does deviate from what your core business is that strategic consulting and helping those low-cost carriers get off the ground. And this is a very strategic market within Africa and the Middle East that we see holds a strong growth potential for you moving forward, as well as actually bidding on those requests for proposals in just 3 hours' time. So moving on to the more of the second, so that's the foundation phase. That we see that initially those are the few actions that you do need to take right now. Moving on to analyzing the potential and actually formalizing those agreements. So this is starting to go within 3 months and 6 months as well. So signing that exclusive contract with Flight. So how we see that you could go to the exclusive contract, as Flight is an innovative leader within their supplier market. They have real-time tracking capabilities and not just general aspects that actually were controversial in the downfall of Malaysian Airlines. So we see this as a very critical move for you to actually move to secure that exclusive partnership, because we see this as emerging technology within the market. as well as sending your senior consultant over there. So this is critical to maintaining your customer service, maintaining what you do best is having higher expertise, lower amount of contracts, and lower companies in terms of size for lower cost carriers, but really helping them get off the ground. So making sure that within that 6-month time frame, sending that senior consultant over there after you finalize that exclusive agreement. So moving on a little bit further, between 6 months and 3.5 years. So we do see this as a longer term implementation timeline. Managing those relationships as well as establishing an office in Burundi. So managing the relationships we see as very critical, and establishing that office is very important because financial results will show that within that you will need to set up the office. So that's the analyzing growth management phase. So in terms of the negotiation process, so right after this meeting, what would you have points to negotiate? The value of the markets is very critical. So we see this as an emerging market, as a market that has lots of opportunity for growth. So making sure you use your leverage points effectively in that aspect. Value of partnership with Granite. So the value of partnership is that you kind of mesh well with what Flight is doing at this time. So they are becoming more of an innovative aspect, and your capabilities really mesh well with them. As well as mitigating concern regarding corruption, only pursuing those safe avenues as we outlined in our analysis. As well as managing those relationships. So starting with the relationships with key clients. The senior consultant will actually ensure full client satisfaction as you're sending one of your top people there, making sure that these new contracts aren't just assigned and kind of you deviate from what you do best, but actually furthering the relationship fully moving forward. As well as the relationship with Flight, so demonstrating the value on your investment, because the reason why you haven't signed an exclusive partnership to this deal is because you do need to show sales, you do need to show growth, and with this moving into these 2 strategic markets, you will indeed do that. As well as that local environment. So we see the local environment, the local regulatory environment with the potential for bribery, which will we've shown with the first 2 options that you're actually will not be at risk with those ones. And the Angolan introducer was very key to the Angola deal, so making sure that this person is introduced to your senior consultant as well as your key contacts for the Angolan company, as well as contact the Burundi government officials to maintain what they said they were going to use that money for, so making sure that the paperwork is processed in an effective manner. As well as establishing an office in Burundi in year 4. So we can go into why specifically we chose in year 4, have that senior consultant within those first 3 years. We did result in it being financially stable and effective for you to establish that office. So how specifically, what specific actions do we recommend you take within that? So finding the actual office space and working with those political considerations, the regulatory environment, as I did touch on, is very key within these 2 new contracts and these 2 companies. Hiring that office manager and secretary to work with your senior consultant to ensure full customer service. Moving the senior consultant there, as well as utilizing your physical presence to actually grow those relationships. So making sure that their needs to continue to be met, and you will be effective moving forward.
So taking a look at the financial impact of our recommendation today. As you can see, you will break even by year 4. While we do realize this is not an ideal situation, we do believe that this opportunity in Africa and the Middle East is too good for your company to pass up. So while you will take a bit of a hit within the first 4 years, we do see that there is a major potential for growth and major growth within those last 2 years. This is 2018 and 2019. So you're really looking at $7 million in 2019 in revenue based on those projected sales that your company has outlined to us.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So we did our best to make sure we didn't hedge any risks, and we did a low-risk strategy, but there are a few that we did identify. And the first is the potential for lower customer service from the lack of an actual established office in the first 4 years. We see to make sure we implement actual managers and monitoring processes with the clients. And if this is a challenge, we could look into actually establishing the office sooner, as well as we could further leverage the senior consultant to help with this, or actually have the people in the North American office providing this support. Secondly, is that Flight does not want to go back on the initial agreement. And we see this as one of the key risks that you could potentially face coming up very soon. So we thought that either you could perform further analysis and really, again, try and sell them on the value of this partnership, or at that point, we don't see that it is feasible to go into this market with their agreement, so we would actually recommend that you do leave that offer on the table. Thirdly, is unforeseen political instability in Burundi. So from there, we'd actually see that you would actually move to the Angolan market, especially before you've established the office in that time. So to conclude, we've gone through an analysis of a number of decisions you've had to make, provided a recommendation and a 5-year timeline, and these are the key results that we do see with this recommendation. The first is a $7 million return in year 5. The second is you'll sign 2 lucrative contracts, which will have a large payoff. The third is you'll establish an exclusive relationship with a key supplier. Fourth is you'll position yourself in 2 key growing, prosperous markets. And then fifth is we'll mitigate the concerns of corruption. So with that, DLD Consulting would like to thank you very much for your time, and now open the floor to any questions.
Question, one of the key issues here is the risk of bribery. And one of the ways Flight is offered to mitigate that risk is by changing the structure of their deal with you. You consider it all over relations?
Just in terms of their motivation for restructuring the deal, we do see that their reputation will be on the line as well if we do recommend to move into these markets, and then the corruption bribery charges, or the corruption bribery actually is true. So we did see that it is effectively mitigated through the two provisions that we did see. So no, we wouldn't see that their specific intentions were too much deviation from actually just avoiding risk.
As you look at the overall plan, getting to $7 million return in year 5, given the size of the business, the size of our business, and the uncertainty and volatility in the market, what would have to be true to break even or make a return sooner than that? What are the key variables, and how might we think about that relative to our renegotiation with Flight?
Well, that's a really interesting question, and we do see those projections are quite aggressive. As you can see, it is a large scaling up. In terms of key variables we'd want to consider with this and things that could move around, we do see with the projections that you did provide us with the units ramping up. As mentioned, both of these markets have some volatility, so this could change based on how the markets change. If the competitors decide to enter as well, we could look at that as well, potentially seeing if there's any new technologies are developed as well. So I think what's key to all of those is making sure that along the process, as mentioned in the timeline, we're really analyzing the market for any of these key factors and variables that might be changing to make sure that we can strategically pivot where need be.
I'm interested in your office question, and I don't know much about the intra-regional arrangements within Africa and the Middle East, but why Burundi? That doesn't strike me as a place that's a particularly strong regional hub.
So we've seen Burundi as one of those as a place for your head office in Africa and the Middle East, because a large portion of your business is done in Burundi through the company that is based there. So that does account for the majority of the units being sold initially with these 2 contracts.
So just a question, Flight seems to have an excellent product that actually can save the customer a lot more money. It's substantially better than what else they can do. Do you consider alternative pricing scenarios for that?
Just in terms of alternative pricing for what actually Flight would offer to you yourself, we took
To the end use customer.
Oh, to the end use customer. We did take a look at that, but we didn't see it as necessarily one of the biggest factors. We see that could potentially be something that is really looked at as you would move forward with that relationship within these 2 suppliers. But we did see critical to the process is actually avoiding those bribery and getting that strong foothold. But definitely once you have that foothold within the region, you could take a look at how things are progressing and may have a price change from there.
Can you expand on one of your risks was Flight not being able to renegotiate? Can you expand on what your recommendation is, given they only have 3 hours if they choose not to renegotiate, what is your final recommendation for us to do and why?
Definitely, I kind of breezed over that point, so we can just flip back there. So the first thing is we do have only 3 hours. So essentially you would come out of that phone call and see, are there still any potential leverage points that we could further renegotiate with them again, depending on how they went forward with that conversation. So again, that's the perform the further analysis point, and we see potentially demonstrating further value of markets or other leverage points. In terms of if that does not play out, we don't see that going forward with their agreement was the best way forward. So from there, unless there's other ways to renegotiate based on that conversation, we do recommend that you do leave it on the table.
How did you assess the risk on the end-use customer actually paying the bill?
I'm sorry, can you repeat
How
that?
did you assess the risk on the end-use customer actually paying the bill?
Yeah, definitely. So if we could actually flip to our financial projections. In our financial projections, we did include the insurance cost. So making sure that those accounts receivable are actually collected with the Canadian insurance that was available.
That's probably all the